The Tourism Business Council of South Africa says it expects to see an increase in business following the reopening of 5 airports for international travel. This was just one of the measures announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa when he moved the country to lockdown level 1 last night. He says the 33 land border posts will remain closed for the time being. The other 20 land border posts will remain open. Tourism Business Council CEO Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa joins us via Skype now. A very good morning to you, Mr. Tshivhengwa. Your reaction to the President's announcement?
We do believe that what the President have announced is going to go a long way in deepening the recovery of tourism industry, and the fact that we now have 2 additional airports that are allowed for international landing. It will go far. Meaning that now we have Kruger-Mpumalanga International Airport, and we also have Lanseria Airport allowed to receive international flights. So that will go a long way, especially for those that are traveling on private jets and those that are, coming in on chartered planes. They should be able to land at those airports, and they should be able to come and do tourism. So it goes a long way in terms of deepening the recovery. And of course, we're still concerned that, the other land borders, the 33 that are still closed, it is a concern for us. We need to figure out a way of opening them because there are a lot of people across, the SADC region that make up a huge number of tourists that come into this country. Although some of them, come for economic reasons, but there's a lot of people that come here to shop and do many other things that impacts the retail sector and other sectors across the economic sphere of this country. So we do believe that we should be able to open other borders, and we should be able to do so safely. But from tourism point of view, we are happy that now we've moved to level 1. Although there are a few things that we want to see happening so that it can, further increase tourism, especially in terms of gatherings.
Are you able to, have you measured the impact of the lockdowns? Are you able to give us the monetary losses for the sector since the pandemic started?
Look, when the pandemic started, when the whole industry was closed entirely, we were losing around 798 million rand, per day. Remember, this is an industry that contributes from international inbound point of view around 120 billion rand, and from domestic, point of view around 153, 54 billion rand. That's generated from the spend point of view. So it is a big industry. 273 odd billion rand is an amount of money that's spent in tourism annually. This is pre-COVID numbers. Now, with what's happening now, we do know that the income from the international inbound point of view it's non-existent, so to speak. You're looking at hotels, operating at less than 95% of what they used to operate, meaning that they're just sitting at around, 5%. Some of them are sitting at around 15%, and some are sitting at around 20%, which is not conducive for the operation of those hotels. So all in all, you have an industry that is really operating at around, from our estimation, around 25%. From what it used to be. So it's the 25% of what we normally used to bring in, on a monthly basis, which is a very, very small figure compared to what I've said earlier, that, we used to generate 798 billion rand per day. So if you take 25% of that on each day, it's a small figure. So we are bleeding. There are many SMMEs that have closed their doors. There are many businesses that are still not open. We estimate around 50,000 businesses are still not open. We do estimate that we still have around 300,000 employees that are still sitting at home. That still needs to go back to work. So the situation is dire, if you look at it. And in the medium term, it's going to still be a tough situation. But we're looking at long term at the moment to say, how we're going to be doing in the next 3 years. Because, other than having vaccine, we have to operate in the situation that we're in. But if we go ahead and ramp up the vaccination in this country, we will then have a better situation in the medium term. But for now, we are very much looking at around 3 years of recovery to go back to the levels of 2018, 2019 numbers.
So South Africa has repeatedly been ranked as a top global travel destination ever since the FIFA World Cup in 2010 especially. How much damage has this pandemic done with regards to the rankings?
Look, the biggest thing that this pandemic have done is the so-called, and we coined this ourselves, and we shouldn't have done that, the so-called South African, variant has damaged the brand significantly. We were, I remember last year when we did a survey, of overseas travelers and many other surveys that came through from many other, platforms, everyone wanted to come to South Africa because of open spaces, and the fact that you can be able to do tourism in a socially distanced way. We've got safaris, we've got all these lodges and many other spaces, that are, open. And now when this new variant came in and the fact that we were too slow to manage the narrative, we saw that, everyone started to talk about, that South Africa has something that nobody has around the world. So, the new variant that, we discovered here in South Africa, and the fact that we didn't manage the communication, did a lot of damage on the brand. And it's going to take a bit of time to clean up, that damage that has been done and to restore the confidence within the international source markets for tourism. So we have to do better in communication to make sure that that doesn't continue. But for now, we are faced with a whole lot of work that we need to do as tourism practitioners, and also working with government to make sure that we manage that brand through our international missions across the world that are managed by DECO and many other, the likes of Brand South Africa, the likes of South African tourism. We have to manage the situation better to make sure that we return to some level of brand equity that we used to have. But that's going to take time. And we've seen this with the situation that we had in Cape Town, the water situation to be specific, when we call it day zero. That had huge damage across the world. And we were still doing putting together, packages and messages across the world to say we do have water. Now we have a situation with this variant where we need to put more information to say, the variant that we had is not more deadlier than the other variants that are discovered anywhere else in the world. And in fact, we are managing the situation quite nicely. And if you look at the second wave and you compare to other countries, the only country that was better than South Africa in the second wave was Germany. It means that, we come up tops in terms of managing this pandemic. So we need to be communicating these messages, and we need to be communicating the fact that we have capacity and capabilities to manage the pandemic, and therefore anyone who wants to travel to the country should be reassured that they will be well taken care of from the medical point of view.
Just before you, we were speaking to Wendy Alberts. She's the CEO of the Restaurants Association of South Africa. No doubt interacts with you regularly, but just like you, members-based. And we were just talking about the impacts on their members. Have you been having conversations with the members of the people who conduct business in the tourism space, just to find out what the impacts have been, personal or individual impacts?
No, absolutely. We are an umbrella body for the tourism industry. In fact, last week we were briefing the Portfolio Committee on Tourism in Parliament. And our members, spread across, the entire spectrum of tourism and hospitality, including restaurants, including hotels, including car rentals, and so forth and so on. So we talk to everyone within our member base. We talk to the travel agents, we talk to the tour operators, we talk to lodge operators, we talk to restaurant owners. And, people have stories to tell. And majority of these stories are horror stories in terms of how they had to use their last cents, to make sure that their business survives, and how they have to take more loans to make sure that their employees are getting paid, and how, they had to put in their own money, to make sure that the vehicle licenses in terms of tour operators, are paid. So we have stories, real stories of people who have suffered through this pandemic and people who have been resilient in making sure that their employees are well taken care of. So the situation as it is now, it is very dire. The only thing that will reverse the situation or start to reverse the situation is the fact that we have a bigger rollout of vaccines. It will show the world that, we are a trusted destination. We are ready to receive tourists. And it will also say to the world that, South Africa is open for business. I think we need to, speed up that process to make sure that we return to that level of trustworthiness. But, the stories that you hear, and some of them have not turned out very well. There are many people who have committed suicide. There are many people who have given up. There are programs that many people in the tourism industry are running in terms of mental, health, and also making sure that people understand and can cope with this situation. But it is tough up there for us. But again, we're a resilient industry. We'll always bounce back. But there has been casualties of this pandemic.
Well, let's thank you for talking to us today. Let's hope that at a follow-up conversation, there'll be better news to tell.
Absolutely.
That was the Tourism Business Council CEO, Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa. Let's take a short break. We'll be back in a moment.